breaking news and trending talk with Mike and McCarty. Mornings on 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL.
.101.7 FM, 710 KEEL. Mike and McCarty. Governor announcing a huge tax reform bill. Richard Nelson, Revenue Secretary, on the Jack Spring Electric Newsmaker Hotline. Richard, good morning.
Good morning.
Is the average citizen, me, going to see a difference in my wallet coming up?
You will. That's the whole point.
Okay.
Nice.
How much? How much are you giving me back?
Well, it will depend on how much you make, but everybody in the state will get an income tax cut. And so the idea would be that on the January 1st or the first paycheck of the year next year, you would see a pretty sizable increase in your pay because we're trying to cut income taxes by about $1 billion across the state. And everyone would benefit from that basically starting in January.
My question to you is, what about those that are already at that lowest rate? How are they going to see a cut?
Well, so if you're already paying that lowest rate, we actually eliminate the income tax entirely. So on that bottom bracket, currently it's up to $12,500. We raise the standard deduction of the income tax up to $12,500. And so that income tax liability will go away.
Okay.
Of course, the big question is, well, where's the money going to come from? How are you're losing $500 million. But, when Reagan cut taxes, the economy did better. People don't want to see, the other side doesn't want to see that. Trump did the same thing in 2020. When you cut taxes, it actually increases. 2016.
So we're doing a lot of very smart pro-growth reforms that I think you will see significant growth in the state of Louisiana. We can just look around us, right? All the states in the South have been growing, essentially booming in the country, and yet Louisiana is the only one losing population. We continue to lag behind all the states next to us. And really the only difference that I would point out that's kind of across the board is our tax policy has been broken. And we've known that forever. There's been commissions and studies and committees that have gone through and looked at this, and they've basically all recommended the same thing, and that's broader bases for the sales tax, the income tax, and lower rates. And so that is really the reforms we're trying to push. A lot of the money that comes to lower that income tax rate is going to come from cutting out some of these special interest loopholes, getting rid of some of the exemptions. We have 223 exemptions to the sales tax code. We're going to try and sweep some of those out, and so that we can have low rates that will allow us to reduce that income tax and essentially make the state more competitive.
Richard Nelson, when you were running for governor and you were sitting in that chair right next to me, you've been preaching this for a long time, and you talked about doing away with the income tax. And I've told you about my children who are probably not coming back to this state. You're hearing that all over the state. Are you very confident that changing this tax code will help keep our kids and grandkids in Louisiana?
I am absolutely confident that changing the tax code will help keep our kids in Louisiana. And I think that this will lay the foundation for eventually getting rid of the income tax so that we can be even more competitive with states like Texas and Florida and Tennessee that are, our neighbors that are really growing. But this is the foundation that we need. This is this is not a tiny step in the right direction. This is a giant leap in the right direction. We're going to see benefits from this. Over the next 5 years, I think they'll be pretty astronomical.
Well, you just answered my next question. Is this an incremental step to eliminating the state income tax?
So it is. It really is. I think that at the end of the day, we're trying to build a structure. We'll have one flat income tax rate without a bunch of different brackets so that, everybody will be in the same boat as everyone will get an income tax cut if we continue to lower the rates. And that is the plan, is that as the state grows, we'll continue to reduce the rate. And so we'll go from 3% is what we're projecting it to be now at the end of this reform. And then as the state grows, we'll be able to use that excess revenue to reduce the rate even further until it's eventually gone.
Revenue Secretary Richard Nelson, I got this question texted to me this morning saying that some parishes St. James, St. John the Baptist Parish, and some others depend on the inventory tax 40 to 45% of their budget. And this proposal, I believe, includes eliminating the inventory tax. How will those parishes make up that revenue?
That's a great question. So first of all, I think St. James is probably the most dependent on the inventory tax, and it's about, I think, 26% of its budget. But the way that we structured it is that it's going to be a voluntary opt-out for the parishes. So if the parishes don't want to keep it, or if the parishes want to keep the inventory tax, they can keep it. It's up to them. And so if they don't want to, though, then they can opt out, and we're actually providing them an incentive of up to 3 years of their inventory tax collections, up to $15 million, in order to make that election. And the benefit of that is that it's going to make the parishes much more competitive for projects, manufacturing, all these kind of things that right now they skip over Louisiana because they don't want to deal with the inventory tax. That's one of the major drivers. And if you ask economic development, they'll say, hey, look, this inventory tax, we don't want to. Nobody wants to come to Louisiana when you have to pay tax on the number of cars or the number of whatever you have sitting in your facility. And so that's one of the major reasons why we see these big manufacturing projects locating in Texas, locating in Mississippi, locating in Alabama or Georgia, South Carolina, but they're not coming to Louisiana.
But why would any parish not opt out?
Well, there are parishes that have, as the caller noted, that they have a pretty strong reliance on the inventory tax. But we are giving the parishes the option of not just immediately stopping the tax, but also phasing it out over time, which I think would be more palatable for them, so that they can adjust their revenues and make sure they have enough money to continue to operate. At the same time, we are providing other ways for the state, for the locals to make up other revenues, so that they'll have an expanded sales tax base, because some of these exemptions will benefit them. We're also trying to let them keep more of their mineral revenue. So from like severance taxes, the state currently caps how much the locals can get back. We're going to try and let them have a greater share of that. And as a result, they'll have other sources of revenue that they can rely on besides the inventory tax, which is really an uncompetitive tax.
But if I'm a car dealership in St. James Parish and they're going to keep the inventory tax, and I can move my dealership 10 miles and I don't have to mess with this inventory tax, I'm moving out of your parish. That's what's going to happen to those parishes, right?
So, I think there will be competition among the parishes. I think that's inevitable. At the end of the day, though, I would rather a business move from, Bossier Parish to Red River Parish or something like that, as opposed to moving to Texas. And so that's what's happening now, is that a significant number of those guys, businesses and manufacturers, whatever it is, are just moving out of the state because they can't, they don't want to deal with it anymore. And that's just one piece of this overall package where we're cutting rates across the board. We're looking for ways to make it easier for businesses to comply with the sales tax code, which is very complicated. We're trying to simplify it. And so this is really a comprehensive approach to try and make Louisiana competitive. And I think we're going to be, the Tax Foundation has looked at this plan, and they've said that we would go from basically the bottom 10 to the top 10 as far as tax competitiveness and business climate. Wow. And that would be a whole new day in Louisiana.
Wow.
Talking to Revenue Secretary Richard Nelson. Richard, we spoke to John Fleming a little earlier. And of course, the first question is, well, where are you going to make up these losses? And he brought up a good point. Look, we need to look at how we can cut things that wasteful spending. Do you see that being a viable option?
So there are going to be some cuts associated with this plan. It's about $100 million at least from the general fund. There'll be even more than that outside of the general fund, about $500 million overall. But at the end of the day, the tax policy, I tell them all the time, I'm not in the spending department, I'm in the revenue department. So I can tell you tell me how much money you want to cut or how much money you want to raise, and I can tell you the best way to raise that money to make the system the most competitive and the easiest to comply with. And that's the whole point of this, is to make the state more competitive. And at the end of the day, what that will do is grow the pie versus, what we've been doing for the past couple decades is fight over the shrinking pie, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's the end goal.
The special session in November, you feel pretty confident that lawmakers will pass a package of bills to accomplish all this?
Yes, I think that we will come to some kind of consensus on what the final answer is. I was in the legislature before. I know I kind of believe in Mike Tyson's adage, right? Everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face. At the end of the day,
right.
What what comes out probably won't be what goes in. But I think as long as we move the ball in the right direction, I think we can make significant improvements. I think that's the appetite, definitely of the governor, and I think of many members of the legislatures to do big things. And so that's what we're going to continue to push for. And I'm more optimistic now for the future of Louisiana than I think I've ever been.
Well, that's exciting to hear. Revenue Secretary Richard Nelson, thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
101.7 FM, 710 KEEL, Mike and McCarty.
Business.
Now more breaking news and trending talk with Mike and McCarty on 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL.
710 KEEL.
I feel so stupid after yesterday's show.
Really?
Yes.
I thought we had a great show yesterday, thanks to you.
Everything was wonderful until the end.
What happened?
When we learned you're supposed to wash rice.
Oh, yeah.
And Ruben knew about it. I had no clue.
Well, I didn't either. I hadn't thought about it. And Greg made a great point. He said, if I'm buying a box of Uncle Ben's,
or Mahatma,
Mahatma, he says he's not.
Right.
I still would. I still would rinse it.
But you haven't been?
No. But
Because no one in your home can cook rice, we learned.
No, it's delicious.
Broke a tooth on it, I heard.
It was a challenge for many, many years.
Oh, yeah. The rice cooker came from Santa.
We did. We ended up getting a rice cooker. Mm-hmm. Amazing how those things make a huge difference.
What started the washing of the rice? Is that recent, or has it been going on for my grandmother never washed rice? It's
apparently been going on for years. There's a thread on Reddit that even says, a guy goes, my grandpa was the farm manager for the LSU Rice Research Station, and my mom grew up on a farm. He says, so from a third generation rice man, always wash your rice. So it's not anything new.
Doesn't Mahatma wash it? Is Mahatma bagging dirty rice?
I'm sure they probably do, but here's something else I bet you never thought of. Mm-hmm. I know you don't drink a lot of Cokes.
No, I stopped.
Or soft drinks.
I stopped, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Ruben, you pop a top every now and then.
Beer, yeah.
Okay.
Beer and water is all I drink.
Do you drink directly out of the can?
Yeah.
Do you clean the top of that can before you put it to your mouth?
No.
See? Those cans have been sitting in warehouses.
Oh, yeah.
Bugs and mice crawling all over the place.
Oh.
And you just pop the top and put it right up against your mouth.
It makes you strong, Mike.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
It boosts your immune system.
No, I wipe mine off. At least wipe it off with a paper towel or something.
Really?
Heck yeah.
Well, I'll use a straw if I have it, except beer. I'm told don't use a straw in beer. Not a good thing.
I've never heard of anyone doing that, but
is it supposed to make you drunk faster or something?
It's supposed to, yeah.
Now, I don't know the Scientology behind that.
That sounds like junior high school science.
It might be, yeah.
Right,
yeah,
right.
Could be.
Yeah.
That could be. It's like the baby version of funneling, I guess.
Oh, no.
But back to funneling. Yeah. But back to washing rice. It removes the dust and the dirt and bugs that, might have accumulated. How many times have you opened up like cornmeal or flour when there's little worms in there? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Stuff just gets in there.
Okay.
And it's a good idea. It also helps remove some of the starch. And it's not as clumpy.
Yeah,
if you rinse it off.
When I heard about rinsing it, that was the reasoning behind it, is it didn't make it lumpy whenever it absorbed all the water.
Okay. Who knew? I had no clue about this.
A lot of people knew.
Yeah, a lot of people did. But we asked in this building, and nobody was a rice washer.
Right.
But I guess we're going to have to now be rice washers. I guess you put it in a colander or something. I don't know.
Just kind of run some cold water over it.
Yeah. Oh, well. Okay.
And did you realize there are microplastics? Think about that. Microplastics.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
So wash your rice.
Okay.
Governor Jeff Landry joining us later this morning. Mike and McCarty, 101.7 FM, 710keel.com.
Back with more of Mike and McCarty on 101.7 FM and 710 Keel.
Talking about rinsing or washing your rice before the news. The last segment, I got a text from a buddy that said a tablespoon of vinegar in the boiling water will keep the rice from clumping also, and it doesn't affect the taste of the rice.
Wow. Okay.
Just a tablespoon.
Whew,
But I like vinegar, so if it added a little zing to it, it wouldn't bother me.
See, I don't know that I'd want that. I like my butter with my rice.
Oh, yeah.
I will eat, especially if like today I have like a little tummy grumbling. This was the first day, and you should know this, Ruben, the first day in probably 4 years that I thought I might have to call Ruben this morning.
Ooh, dang.
My gosh.
I rarely am sick. I mean, knock on my head because it's wood. And I thought, whew, my tummy's rumbling. So I ate a couple crackers.
Yeah.
I keep 7-Up in the house just for that, just in case. So I had one. I poured over ice. I took a couple of sips, and my tummy grumbled back down. But I like just rice.
Yeah.
Rice with with a little bit of butter on it, and it just helps the tummy a lot too. So I don't know. I don't think it's anything serious because I'm here, but I am a little bubbly. I'll just tell you that.
Something
not
ate?
What you're thinking. I'm not sure. I don't really know. I have no clue what it is. I don't think it's, we're getting flu shots tomorrow, right?
Yes, we're scheduled tomorrow morning to get our annual flu shots from the folks at Auctioner.
So edit this part out because they're going to ask me, "Are you feeling okay?" And if I say no, So yeah, I'm feeling good tomorrow.
Yeah, feel great. Yeah, feel great.
But rice is I can't believe you don't eat it 3 times a week like the rest of us.
I do. I mean, there's no reason I don't. I love rice. I love Louisiana rice.
We know why you don't.
Because I'm poor. My wife will be the first to admit I can't cook rice.
Oh, she'll say it.
Oh,
she knows.
Yeah, she'll say it. I mean, it's not. Okay. It's not like it's. I'm.
Not some deep family secret.
No, it's not like I'm saying something that
Okay.
that she would know. She'd be the first to admit.
All right.
But a rice cooker changed our lives.
Is there something?
Still don't do it enough.
Is there something she cooks that you really love that you wish you could cook, but you won't venture it? You won't try it?
Well, yeah, Popeye's chicken. Yeah.
Oh,
101.7
sorry,
FM,
Dina.
710 Keel.
Get back to the show with Mike and McCarty on 101.7 FM and 710 Keel.
Yesterday, we spoke to Susan Russell with Keep Louisiana Beautiful. And they've got a big conference coming up. But she said something that I actually wasn't expecting. Because we know recycling in Shreveport it's non-existent now.
Been dead, yeah. Mm-hmm.
As far as city-provided, service. And I asked Susan Russell yesterday, I said, I prefaced it by saying Shreveport's recycling is non-existent, but how is recycling statewide?
It's pretty dismal, honestly. We have one major MRF, and that's in Baton Rouge. New Orleans has one in the outskirts. But basically, it's, when you don't have the infrastructure to support robust, recycling, then the costs go up because what is collected then has to be shipped out of state. And it just doesn't make sense. So recycling continues to be a challenge. There's certain commodities that they still can be profitable. Your aluminum, your metal, your scrap, your your cardboard and paper. But some of the other things, such as plastics, still continue to be quite a challenge. Many local communities are rolling back. Those that did have curbside recycling, many are rolling back. We do have some successful recycling drop-off centers in some parishes. In West Monroe, for example, they've been very successful with theirs. There's one in DeRidder. Jefferson Parish just last year went from curbside to offering 2 drop-offs. So for some communities, they are looking for ways to, instead of eliminating recycling, how can they continue to offer their residents recycling and make it in a more affordable, economical way.
Susan Russell, Keep Louisiana Beautiful. Thanks for talking with us this morning, and we'll keep in touch.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You bet.
See you soon.
Yes, thank you.
Now, we also need to report that there is a company in Bossier City, at least one company, that does recycling in the area, and they charge $30 a month, and you get twice a week, twice a month curbside recycling pickup. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not sure, how often, how this stuff is marketed. I really don't understand who's buying it all, because she said there's really no market for plastics.
Right.
People don't want it anymore. They're doing away with plastics. California, no more plastic bags.
There also quite possibly still is. When we lived in North Bossier, there was a drop-off station that had big dumpsters that you could go in Bossier, and you could put papers, back when we took the newspaper, or they had a couple plastic dumpsters, and you dumped them all in, then, and of course glass. I'm
used to have
assuming
that
that's
here
still,
too. Somebody text us on the
it's right off Highway 80.
I would love to know if we still have a place where you can bring recyclables. There may be like an aluminum company where you can bring aluminum cans, because you used to bag those up and, take them in and you get certain amount.
There used to be people that would go to the streets with, grocery carts picking up aluminum cans.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And collecting those.
I remember as a child picking up bottles, when sodas were sold in the glass bottles, picking up those bottles and bringing them back.
Oh, we used to take Coke bottles to, it was Pack-a-Sack back in the day. And get gum. We could go in and get a nickel for the Coke bottle and get gum. And
you bet.
Candy.
It was a big deal. I just don't know that there's a place to bring any of those goods anymore.
I don't know.
I'm not sure. Would people pay, because we were paying $250 a month for recycling. Would people pay for that? And I'm one of the guilty ones. I never did it. I never separated.
We did.
Did you?
When we had it, sure. We had to, still have our blue barrel, our blue canister. But yeah, we would separate and put it in the recycling and take it out each week.
I never did it. And I'm curious now too, because I see on garbage day, I see the blue bins out. Are people just using them for regular?
Yeah, they're just using them for regular trash now.
I just the last time we have to, next week we'll have the mayor on Wednesday. We'll have to ask him. Are we looking at any kind of recycling? And he'll probably, after we tell him what Susan said, that it's, essentially dead across the state. We're not the only city.
Again, we don't have to reinvent the wheel.
I know.
What are other communities doing successfully?
Right. That's a good point. And for us to say we could do it for $250 a month, it's ridiculous. You have a private company charging $30 a month. So, that's way out of balance. There's no way you can do it for $250 a month.
Well, if the city's sponsoring it, though, there's going to the number is going to be much, much higher.
Yeah, but we didn't even have the city. It wasn't even the city trucks doing it when we had it. I think Republic was doing it for us. And I may be speaking out of turn. Somebody can correct me.
Yeah.
But I don't even think the city garbage crews were picking it up. So we weren't using our trucks. We were, and it just wasn't economically feasible anymore to keep that contract going, because we were having to subsidize, I guess, for the recycling. Again,
and then
I may be
pay
speaking out
to
of
go
turn.
dump it out of state, by the way. They were taking it over to Texas.
Because there was no market for it. They could sell the aluminum, they could sell some of the paper products, but the plastics was just going into a landfill somewhere.
Just going into it. We weren't even recycling it.
Which is sad, because the people that were diligent about separating it, they really had good faith that the stuff was being recycled.
Right.
And if it's not, It kind of is sad. I'm hoping maybe it'll come back, but not for $250. You're going to have to pay a lot more, I bet.
Well, then I don't want it to come back.
I understand that.
Quite simple.
Yeah.
But the mayor will be in next week, and that's one of the things we'll talk about. And if you have questions for him, be sure to shoot them to us on the Shreveport Security Systems message board.
You keep the questions to, a general,
Right,
again,
well, sure.
We're not going to ask him about the pothole in front of your driveway.
Exactly.
Because we want to address community-wide problems.
And we don't give a rip about the pothole in front of your driveway.
I'll ask him about the one by mine.
Unless it's in front of my driveway. Yeah. 101.7 FM, 710 KEEL.
More breaking news and trending talk with Mike and McCarty on 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL.
But I told you, I wasn't ready. Don't start a segment until I'm ready.
Oh, goodness.
Time stands still for no man.
Yeah. Little bit yesterday, I was talking with some of the crew members of the local Mardi Gras crews because there's a little bit of concern about getting the Mardi Gras beads in time for the spring parade.
Because of the longshoremen strike. Mm-hmm. Okay.
And they're a little worried that if it goes beyond, 2 or 3 weeks, some of the shipments could get stuck and not make it here. Now, I do know from the crew of Centaur, they got at least one shipment in already of some of the beads, but some of the orders are, they're in the pipeline, so they're still waiting. So they are keeping a close eye on it. They're very hopeful that it'll happen. And we have to note, too, that the ports that are closed are not the ones in California. Those are still open.
Right.
So you're still going to
East Coast
and down to the Gulf. And you're still going to get shipments into California, Los Angeles, et cetera. So if those shipments would have come to New Orleans or Houston, now they can redirect them to California and put them on trucks then and move them here. Could it delay things? Yes, of course it could if the shipment would normally come through Houston or New Orleans. But I suspect they will find other ways to get those goods to the folks here. Mm-hmm. So I don't think it's a huge concern right now. They're saying the biggest concern is going to be for things like bananas and things like that. But you would think those could come through the California ports too. But will it make it, on the truck? Because what happens then?
Because a lot of crews throw bananas. And so they're worried about the bananas.
Is for the regular folk, for you and I, and our coffee.
Right.
There is concern about coffee. But then I thought, if you're sending coffee from Brazil, here, or from South America, couldn't you put it on trucks and just come through the border? Through Mexico? Or is that cost prohibitive to drive it all the way? I don't know. I have no clue about that. But the worry about bananas is that if it comes on to the West Coast and has to get on a truck and then dispersed across the country,
they're going to be brown by the time they get here.
Bananas won't make it. They need to be transported quicker. So, people are buying up. What are they buying up? Toilet paper and paper towels?
Yeah.
Why?
Let me see. 90% of toilet paper used in this country is produced in this country. 90%. Why are people Aaron.
I don't get it either. I'm just saying, save me a roll just in case I'm wrong. Hold me a roll out. I don't understand. I get going and stocking up on coffee. Not that I'm going to do it. I'm going to be fine.
Right.
Starbucks will still find a way to get their coffee out there if I have to buy it from Starbucks.
I have a Keurig, and I have boxes of Keurig K-Cups that
Well, you'll just bring me coffee then every morning from home.
Look at
That'll
the time.
work. Yeah.
Look at the time. Wow. Coming up, rescue efforts and recovery efforts continue in Florida, all of the East Coast. Mm-hmm. Shreveport firefighters are in those communities.
You bet.
And we're going to talk with Pamela Mackey right after the news, top of the hour. 101.7 FM, 710 KEEL. 1017 FM, 710 KEEL, Mike and McCarty on the Jack Spring Electric Newsmaker Hotline. Long distance from Florida, Cedar Key, Florida. Captain Pamela Mackey with the Shreveport Fire Department joining us. Pamela, good morning.
Good morning. How are y'all?
Well, we're doing well. You're working with what ambulance company now out of Minden?
Yes, Advanced EMS out of Minden.
And you are in Florida helping with recovery efforts.
We are. We're down here helping, and we were actually in Cedar Key for several days over the weekend, and they brought us back in to Perry, Florida, to stage last night.
You've been doing all kinds of things, including work at a school. Kind of describe what y'all found when you got there.
Well, down in Cedar Key, they're so resilient. They've been hit by 3 hurricanes in the last 18 months. And, you know, many of the residents had just got their houses back together. And, you know, we talked to them and met them and everything. And they're just completely devastated. No power, no water. I think yesterday the island had about 10 to 12% power restored. But the community in general, they're hoping to have the power restored next week. So the community they didn't want the kids bust off the island. So they asked for the community's help to get the school cleaned up so it would be safe for the kids. And I think that's probably what you're referring to, Aaron, is we just went and helped get the school cleaned up.
Pamela, how did this get started? How did this become organized with SFD heading down to Florida?
Well, actually, I've been doing it since Hurricane Katrina, and during hurricane season, I always work with the ambulance service, and I've been working with Advanced EMS probably for about 15 years. And they have about 10 extra ambulances, and we take them when a hurricane hits.
So you knew you were going to go. You were just waiting for the storm to get through.
Yeah. No, actually, we came a couple of days prior.
Oh, did you?
And then once we get here, and, you know, because sometimes there's evacuations of nursing homes, of bedbound patients, and, you know, just different things like that where we have to go in and help move folks out of sometimes even hospitals that they're thinking that's going to lose power. And then we went back and staged in Marietta, Florida.
Now we also have crews, you know, in other areas. I know we have some in North Carolina as well, right?
Yes. Now Shreveport sent a whole entire task force to. I'm not sure what city they're in, but they're in the Carolinas.
Because the devastation there. I mean, when you would say, you know, Western North Carolina is devastated by a hurricane, none of us would believe that, but it's actually happened, huh?
It has. And I haven't been able to see a lot of coverage on that just because of, you know, where we're located and everything. Cell service has even been a challenge. Cedar Key just got a AT&T FirstNet tower brought in, I think, yesterday. But our cell service and internet and everything's been very limited.
I know in North Carolina, Donald Trump reached out to Elon Musk, who provided Starlink service to that area. So emergency personnel, like, you know, such as yourself, they're able to communicate, and residents are able to reach out for help.
I believe there was a Starlink located down there at the City Hall in Cedar Key. But that has been a huge help. At the FEMA camp in Perry, Florida, they have Starlink set up.
Parts of the area still without power, Pam?
Oh, yeah. Like I said, the island only has 10 to 12% power restored.
That's unbelievable.
In Cedar Key.
Do you see much effort from the federal government? Is FEMA, are they down there assisting?
You know, I hate to say they're not. I'm sure they are, but it's just a small community, a small island. And I personally didn't see anyone with FEMA, but that's not to say they weren't there.
What's your plan, Pamela Mackey with the Shreveport Fire Department, Shreveport Fire Captain? What is your plan in terms of how long you're in for this? You're down there until there's no need, or what's the plan?
Till the state releases us. We actually had 4 units down here, and the state is trying to get, the assets and stuff released and sent back home, so the communities, the EMS infrastructure and everything, they want to get it back sound. And so they released 3 of our units last night, and they got back to Shreveport about 4 this morning, and I still have 1 unit here, and we don't know if the state's going to release them or not.
What will you be doing today? What's the plan for today?
Just to kind of find out what the plan is. We have a meeting this morning to see if the state's going to release the units. They're downsizing. We initially had about 100 units, and I think that they're down considerably, probably around 30 to 40 now. But all the federal assets, as far as the federal ambulances that were staged all around Florida, I think most of those have been demobilized. I think some of them even went to the Carolinas.
Shreveport Fire Department Captain Pamela Mackey. Pamela, you say you've been doing this since Katrina. You've got to be close to retiring. Why do you? No, I'm just saying.
Gosh, that was a gut punch.
Oh.
Okay, never mind. I'm going back to my.
She's only 29.
I know.
Yeah. No,
but God love you. You're still active, and why do you keep doing this?
Because I love it. It's just rewarding to go in and help a community that's just been devastated. And I will actually have 30 years in December with the Shreveport Fire Department.
Man, you started when you were 1?
Okay, see?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
That's retirement age.
I thought when I was 15.
Pam, I have to ask you this because I know this is part of it. Our state is hit by disasters all the time, and there is never a loss for people coming in to help us. So it's also kind of reciprocating. I mean, they help us and we help them. That's kind of what we do. Good people do, right?
Yeah, it really is. And even the cities and counties that weren't heavily damaged, those individuals are flocking to the areas. Mm-hmm. Like I met several ladies yesterday from Tallahassee in Gainesville that didn't have any damage, and they were down there signing up to volunteer just to help folks, empty out their houses and stuff like that, because a lot of the businesses were just washed into the Gulf. Oh. There was a lady that she's the island seamstress, and she made the clam bags for the commercial fishermen, and she had 4 big, huge commercial sewing machines that were just washed out.
Oh, gosh.
Oh.
Yeah. And she just got order of supplies, like materials and thread of around 30,000.
Wow. Captain, for those who can't make the trip down, how can people that are how can they become involved at all, and what can they do to help?
I would suggest to go on the Cedar Key City Hall Facebook page, and I know there's many communities around the Carolinas and Florida that really need assistance, but just go on the Facebook pages and see there's some GoFundMe set up. Mm-hmm. There's individuals that have just totally been wiped out. Do your research before anyone donates, just to make sure it's credible.
Sure. I know Samaritan's Purse is very active in North Carolina. That's their home. Sure. And they're working very hard, and they're very reputable, and you can feel secure donating to them. Of course, the American Red Cross.
Absolutely.
Right. And I'm going to tell you, Mercy Chefs has been feeding a lot of the first responders and citizens.
Wow. Okay. My friend Pam Mackey, Captain, Shreveport Fire Department, thank you for joining us, and God
You're
bless
welcome.
you for what you do.
Thank you, Aaron.
You bet.
Thank you, Pam. 101.7 FM, 710 KEEL, Mike and McCarty.
Stories of the day with Mike and McCarty on 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL.
101.7 FM, 710 KEEL. I saw a story, and it got me thinking, you know how people... Okay, the story was, if you had a T-shirt that had your most common phrase that you say...
Oh, wow.
Well, A, could you wear yours in public?
Mike?
In 2024, people wear stuff in public.
That's true. That's true.
I'm not a prude, but I'm like, oh, come on. Is that necessary?
I have a friend. She shall remain nameless, but she goes to the water aerobics class with me.
Okay.
Every time. And she comes in and she's got her cover-up T-shirt that she wears that says in huge letters, "I pee in pools."
Wear it at the pool.
Yeah, she wears it to the pool. Ah, thanks. I appreciate knowing that. I don't know that I could wear
what would your T-shirt say? What would and what would mine say? Because I'm trying to think. Is there something that I say?
Listeners are screaming at us going, yes.
Right.
But I don't know that I could. Ruben, you sit in this room. What do we say all the time?
Is there something I say all the time?
I'm thinking.
I don't think there is.
I don't know.
I don't think there is. Now, I remember I was driving my son. We were going Benton Road. It was in the morning. And it was very, he was, I don't know, 5 or 6 years old, 7 or 8 years old, sitting in the back seat, reading a book. And I hit the brakes, and he didn't even look up from his book, and he went, "Come on, people." Because he knew those were the next words out of my mouth.
That's funny.
And I was like, "Oh, they're listening."
Mine might say, and I hate to say this on the radio. I don't know. I think I can say it. Mine might say, "What a dumbass."
Yeah, yeah.
Because there's times, and I hate to say, there's times when we finish an interview or something happens, and I'll go, "God, what a dumbass." Or I get a text from somebody, and y'all hear me say that, don't you?
Oh.
Yeah.
If you're listening to me and you've texted me or you've been a guest, I've never said it about you.
Right.
Never.
Right. No,
it's never been about you.
These are other guests.
These are other guests from years ago. Yeah.
I can't believe you said that.
Edit that all out, please, Ruben.
Nobody's ever going to want to come on the air with us anymore. They're going to hang up and go, "She's calling me a dumbass right now."
Mm-hmm. That's going to be the question when they get on the phone. Okay, am I one of your dumbasses? No, the answer is no to everyone.
No, not you.
No, not you.
What a dumbass.
I do say that a little bit. A little bit.
Yeah, I don't think I'd be allowed in certain places if mine was printed on a T-shirt.
Oh, you would not.
Yeah, no.
You certainly would not. Oh, man.
I still want to, when you get new opossum T-shirts, let me know. I've got one coming.
Yes, you do.
Speaking of, I thought of you the other night. My dog was going crazy in the backyard. It was, dark. It was already dark. And I hate a barking dog. Just in general, I hate a barking dog, even my own. So I got up, grabbed a flashlight, went out in the backyard in my underwear, and I'm shining the flashlight, and the dog is over in the corner of the yard, looking up. I'm like, what the? There's a possum on my roof.
On your roof.
Man.
Oh, no.
Just sitting there at the edge of the roof, kind of looking down. And I'm like, okay, I thought of Ruben.
Yeah.
God. Yeah, they get everywhere.
I love possums. They're beneficial. I think they're cute, but they're good to have around.
Did you just say possums are cute?
They are.
They can be.
They eat ticks and grubs, and they're very beneficial to have around. But anyway, it made me
You two
think
are
of you.
smoking something. Possums are not cute. Never.
Yes, they are.
In any lifetime.
Yes, they are.
When they're not hissing at you and digging in your garbage.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And when is that?
Almost all
if
the
they're
time.
not in my attic.
Exactly.
So I don't know if I had a T-shirt with the most common used phrase, I don't know what I can't think of something. And people that know me are going, "Oh my gosh, Mike."
Yeah.
This would be, and if that's the case, I'd really like to know. Maybe
funny.
I wouldn't. I don't know.
That's funny.
What a dumbass.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to have a shirt made for her.
Oh, man, that's funny.
Coming up, of course, huge outrage this week. The Walter O. Bigby carriageway opened this week, and Bossier police were on there issuing tickets day one. Mm-hmm. Folks were not happy. We're going to talk with Lewis Johnson, who's the Bossier spokesman, coming up just after the news at the bottom of the hour. And
he said it was a bad PR move. He'll explain.
Mike and McCarty, 101.7 FM, 710 KEEL, and on that free KEEL app.
Of Mike and McCarty on 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL.
Bossier City PIO, I guess he would still be the Public Information Officer, Lewis R. Johnson, going to be joining us coming up just after the break, talking about the tickets issued on the WAB on the first day it was open.
Oh, people were ticked.
Mike and McCarty, 101.7 FM, 710KEEL.com.
Let's get back to the show with Mike and McCarty on 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL.
On the Jack Spring Electric Newsmaker hotline, Lewis, is your middle initial R?
No, it's not. I don't have
See,
one.
I don't know where I got that. I I called the Sheriff Henry Whitehorn. For some reason, I said C or something. I don't know where I don't know. Anyway, thank you for joining us this morning.
The Walter Bigby carriageway opened up earlier this week, and day one, police were out there giving tickets. Yesterday, you told me, and I'm quoting you, that was not a good move. We regret it happened. Obviously, horrible optics.
I did address it. I don't recall it being exactly that way, but I acknowledged that I understood the concerns regarding that.
How many people got tickets during the first couple of days on the park carriageway?
There were 11 tickets that were given.
Well, that's not terrible.
That's it?
Yeah. Boy, I thought with all this, there were hundreds. SPD's just writing them like...
there were
Bossier
11
PD.
tickets that were given on the carriageway. And let me remind you, if you would please, that's a major project for the city of Bossier, and the entire carriageway itself was designed with safety in mind. And we can see that from a number of things, including the design of the roundabouts.
How many cars were pulled over? Do you have that distinction?
I'm sorry, ma'am?
Do you have the distinction? How many cars were pulled over?
No, I do not have that, but I have how many tickets were given. There were 11 tickets that were given.
So of those 11 tickets, are there any that are going to be excused? Are they going to just write these off and go, well, you have a warning? Or are they...
I appreciate that question. And, of course, there are options as it relates to that. But I would think that at this point that, and I cannot speak for the police chief or the mayor, but I'm sure that if those tickets go through the process, that any consideration that can be given will be given in that respect.
Lewis Johnson, who made the decision to set up essentially a speed trap on the carriageway on day one? Who made that call?
It's not a speed trap, Aaron. Once again, if safety is our concern, then whenever and wherever, the officers did not do anything wrong by any means. However, we do understand that there are too many positive things with that carriageway, and it symbolizes too many positive things, such as our citizens paying for it, and our mayor and our city council working together to make an infrastructure project actually happen. And so there are a lot of positive things that we have there. So we don't want the focus to be, or we don't want it to symbolize anything other than that. But the officers, they are assigned at different areas throughout the city. And so the fact that they were there that morning is understandably questionable, but they certainly did not do anything wrong.
But you didn't answer my question. Who made the decision on day one to have motorcycle cops or other cops up on the carriageway?
To answer your question, we have a patrol division, And so the patrol division determines where we patrol. And so it would be about the patrol division where the decision was made.
And understand, I think and I don't want to speak for Aaron, but when we say speed trap, it's a little tongue in cheek. It's
okay. And I agree. I can appreciate that in that respect. But I'm saying if that's the first time and that's the only time that we've had that happen, to refer to it as a speed trap would not be, it really would not be accurate, because normally speed traps are identified by those places where people are often and, that type of thing. But I can appreciate what you're saying.
Now, I literally wrote your quotes down yesterday, so I'm going to quote you again.
Okay, and I'm ready to listen to them as well.
It was not a good move. Someone was sitting in the room when you said this. Obviously, horrible optics. We regret it happened. What should have been done differently, Lewis Johnson?
Okay, if that is what I said, my point was that the optics obviously was not a good look. I can't question that, because if it was, then we would not be having it being viewed the way that it is. But what could be done differently? I think that, first of all, if safety is our concern, and it is, then I don't know if we've done that, if that was a bad call. However, with it being the first day and with citizens becoming familiar with it, there are a number of things that could be done differently. And I think that one of the things that could be done differently is simply be aware of the fact that citizens are becoming aware of the area and the speed limits and things like that. So other options, warnings are options and things like that. But I not only recognize that, our police chief recognizes it. And because of that, once he became aware of it, he adjusted it and addressed it in that respect.
So maybe they should have been just warning tickets, letting people know, hey, we're keeping an eye on this. It needs to be a safe thoroughfare, and let's all play by the rules.
Yeah, I'm not saying that they should have, but I'm certainly saying that they could have. That was one of the options of what we could have done. And so once it became viewed as a negative, that is not what we wanted. That's not what the administration wants. So we're mindful of that and is addressing it accordingly. But if by chance the message is safety, oftentimes the way that you send those messages is that you send them early. But just as it relates to the overall progress that we've had with that carriageway and how positive it is, we don't want the focus to be on something as negative or viewed negatively. That is why the tickets is a concern and was adjusted.
What do the people do who got tickets? What should they do today?
That is outside of my scope of authority. I would say presently, unless otherwise, they would simply go through the process of the tickets. And if they are to go to court or challenge or whatever, I'm sure that any consideration that can be given will be given. But I don't have the authority to give instructions on what to do beyond that.
Got a message on the Shreveport Security Systems message board. It says people were going 55 to 60 miles an hour. The speed limit is 35. We met the motorcycle police at National Night Out. They mainly wrote warnings. Any given day, you guys are like the rest of us, complaining about speeders and people running red lights. These guys were doing their job. That's what the message says, which is true.
Minimal, and I did not give you any numbers, but the minimal of tickets that was given speed was 52, which is 17 above. Everything else was greater than that. So obviously, the tickets that were given for those who were speeding, but we are not unaware of the optics in that respect, and we want to make sure that the carriageway is viewed in a positive way. And so the police chief wants the same. So as relates to the time frame, we looked at that, and we want to make sure that we're mindful of it as we go forward. But once again, safety is our number one concern, and I think that message is clear at this point.
Did you have a record of how many warning tickets were issued?
I do not have a record of that.
Can you get that for us? Do you mind?
I do not mind at all.
And shoot that to me. We would love to add that because there are people that are putting on social media that they got pulled over. They got pulled over. Maybe they're not putting they got a ticket, but it's way more than 11 people.
Okay. Well, the number of tickets that were given on the carriageway that morning were 11. And
Okay.
that's information that I formally received after requesting it.
And that was for that one day, the day one of it opening.
That is correct. That was the only time at that point.
Are they going to be back out periodically patrolling?
Well, yeah. Of course they are.
I don't understand the question, Aaron.
They will be back out, watching for speeders on the carriageway?
Oh, at some point, of course, we watch for speeders everywhere.
Okay.
So the carriageway is not exempt, obviously, but just that it's the first day and the opening of it, and citizens are becoming familiar with it. There is some consideration in that respect, but of course, they'll be everywhere where anyone is speeding. So the carriageway can be expected, as with anywhere else in the city, that we're going to abide by the speed limits, reasonably so.
Got a message from a local judge. I'm not going to name names, but I'm going to quote you this. You're going to appreciate this, Lewis Johnson. Why do people bitch when the law is enforced? What dumbasses. I'm sorry.
Well, I would not say that, Aaron, but I would certainly smile when you say it.
Lewis, I did ask one of the people complaining about that, and I said, well, let me ask you one question. Were you speeding?
Yeah.
I very
speeding?
much appreciate that. And as I said, it's a conversation that's been had within the administration, and our mayor and our chief of police is aware of it, and they are concerned about it. We appreciate our citizens. We appreciate them providing the funding for the carriageway. That's a biggie. And there are a lot of positive things with that carriageway, and we want to focus on those things. But as it related to being there the first day and getting tickets, I understand the concern in that respect. So I think it's a message that we can all move forward from and know that as it relates to that we're going to be mindful. We want to be mindful of our citizens, but at the same time, safety is our number one concern, and that's everywhere in the city, including the carriageway.
How's the traffic been on the carriageway this week? Has it been, would you consider heavy traffic, people taking advantage of it, or people still learning about it?
I don't have the exact numbers on it, but I've driven it a couple of times, and so have the mayor, and so we see that people are definitely using it. And I think that anyone in Bossier City that has had to wait at a train track for an extended period of time is very grateful to have that outlet as it relates to being unobstructed by train travel. So when I was up there, it was certainly moderate at best, but I went at different times. So I think the more that our citizens become aware that it's open and available, we expect that people will be using it more. Mm-hmm. I have a question. Have you guys driven it yet?
No, my plan, I was over there 2 days ago eating lunch, and I thought I needed to go up there, and I completely forgot because I got a text from somebody that needed me to come back into Shreveport. So I'm planning to go over there today or tomorrow.
Okay, and when you do, Aaron, when you see the roundabout, if you do a little research on roundabouts, you'll see that roundabouts versus lighted intersections, the safety and decrease in collisions is just major in that respect. So that is part of that design for it to have added safety. The roundabouts provide that, and of course, so does patrol.
I kind of drive roundabouts like Chevy Chase. I'm a little worried about it, but I'll try it.
You have to understand how they work, but that's not the only roundabout in Bossier.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. We've got several of them, and that's why we have them. Believe it or not, the numbers say less than 70. There's a 75% decrease in collisions.
Okay.
So, Lewis, for those
90% decrease in fatalities. So safety is clearly a part of that design, and it's intentional in that respect.
Real quick, in the last 30 seconds, let people know, for those that don't know, where exactly can you pick it up, and where does it drop you out, the new Walter O. Bigbee carriageway?
You can pick it up on Benton Road, and once you take it on Benton Road, it'll take you all the way over back to Texas and down near the casino into the
where on Benton Road? Where does it come out?
It's by Douglas Drive,
I don't
right?
know the exact block number, but it's going to be when you go to Texas Street, it will be north of Texas Street.
Okay. All right. Lewis Johnson with the Bossier City, thank you so much for jumping in that hot seat for us.
Not a hot seat, that's what we do, and I thank you for the attention to it, because we want our citizens to know that we're very concerned, and we don't want it to be viewed as a negative. We want it to be viewed as a positive. And so I think that if we slow down and be mindful that we'll all be benefit from it. But thank you guys for having me on this morning.
Thank you, Louis. Governor Jeff Landry going to be joining us coming up news after the top of the hour. Mike and McCarty, 101.7 FM, 710 KEEL, and on the free KEEL app.
Now more breaking news and trending talk with Mike and McCarty on 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL.
It makes me laugh. Earlier we were talking about if you had a T-shirt with a phrase that you use all the time, what would your T-shirt say?
I got to read this one to you.
And one of the messages on the Shreveport Security Systems message board, Aaron's would be something about Night Street.
Yeah, you got a point.
But then one guy says, I do shots. Every time Aaron says, wow, I rarely make it to the end of the show.
Wow.
Wow. Say it 4 times.
Wow,
He's going to be slugging them down now.
I'll have to stop saying wow. But I thought it would
never
be.
caught it. I don't. I usually pick up on things like that.
Okay.
And if somebody, stop. Stop.
That's true. I said, here's a text I'm going to read to you, because I said my T-shirt might say something like, what a dumbass. After somebody says something stupid, or I get a stupid text or something. And then I got this text. It says, Aaron's quote would be, what a dumbass. Your callers or your guests, after they hang up, would say, what a crazy bitch.
Yep. They hang up. That's the first thing.
That's the first thing they say. Yeah.
A buddy of mine texted me. He said, Louis R. Johnson, Louis R. Avalone.
Oh, that's how you mixed it up.
So there lies your understandable confusion.
Okay.
You're not losing it.
Yeah.
He loves me. That's why he's trying to be nice. Yeah.
Tax reform. The Democratic caucus not happy with the governor's tax reform plan, and they think it's going to hurt poor people really bad. We're going to ask the governor about it.
Right after the local news, Governor Jeff Landry joining us, Mike and McCarty, 101.7 FM, 710 KEEL, and on the free KEEL app. .107 FM, 710 KEEL. Mike Martindale, Aaron McCarty, and on the Jack Spring Electric Newsmaker hotline, Louisiana Governor Jeff Landry joining us. Governor, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule for little old us. Exciting news. You've introduced tax reform for the state of Louisiana. What is that going to mean for average citizens? And by average citizens, I mean me.
And me.
Yeah, and Aaron and Ruben.
I love Aaron, my gal. I'm so glad. And listen, I don't want to come on when I just have to deal with Ruben. I want you to know.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand. No, I get it.
No. I'm going to tell you what this means. This means more money in every person's pocket in Louisiana. That's what this means. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. If you
even poor people, you're here in the Democratic caucus.
Caucus.
Yes. And here's the problem with the Democrat caucus. We have, over the last 8 years, practically doubled state spending, right? Mm-hmm. And how many people have been raised out of poverty? All that government spending.
Yeah.
I would submit to you none. Our statistics are still the same. Okay, we just shuffling chairs around the Titanic. This package, okay, will represent the biggest tax change if we can do it. If we can get the legislators to vote on it and the people to approve it in March, it'll be the largest tax change in our state since 1974, and it can't come fast enough. The Tax Foundation, which is the litmus test for economic prosperity and growth, says that if enacted, as it stands today, takes us from the bottom 10 to the top 10. How you like that? Mm-hmm. I mean, just think about that. Americans for Tax Reform praised it. AFP praised it. It has something for everyone. And it puts us in a place where we can quit all these fits and stops and fights so we can start to stabilize our budget process. We can streamline our budget. We can start prioritizing our needs. And the most important thing is it starts to create an unbelievable opportunity for economic growth, which my message to the Democrats is that's how you lift people out of poverty.
But will Gail Benson pay 3% and little old me will pay 3%? Everybody's going to pay the same 3%, right? If you're a millionaire or not.
Well, if you're in the bottom bracket, you're not going to pay anything. But if you're in the two top brackets or the next two brackets, those two brackets are going to be collapsed and you're going to pay 3%.
What is the bottom bracket?
Oh, man. I'm not.
Sorry about that.
Ruben, I don't know. Here's what I do know. We've got three brackets. Okay, there's bottom bracket, a middle bracket, and a top bracket. We virtually eliminate the bottom bracket. We take the two top brackets and we combine those and we go to a flat 3%. We eliminate the corporate franchise tax. We reduce the corporate income tax from 7.5% to 3.5%, which they see as a game changer. And Aaron, here's the important part. This puts us on a path to eliminating the income tax.
Why can't we go straight to that? Why can't we jump to right now, instead of going to 3, say, you know what, we're going to do away with it, and here's how we're going to make it up? Is it too drastic a move?
Well, yeah. Well, let me ask you a question. How many sports teams? How often it happens? But how often can you go from last to first?
It's tough.
And what does it take to do it?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and you certainly don't go from last to first without a little bit of exercise, a little bit of pain,
a lot of hard work,
and a plan, and a lot of hard work, and that is what I'm trying to explain to the citizens of this state and to the legislature is that look, we can't just complain about why we're at the bottom and say we want to be at the top and not recognize that there is a lot of work that has to be done to do that. And I think that this legislature has shown the people of the state of Louisiana and myself has shown the people of the state that we can do some things. Look, we said we were going to get right on public safety and crime, and we did it, and we're still working at it. We said we were going to reform our educational system, and we have done that, and we're still going to work towards that. We said that we were going to streamline our government, and we've worked. We've reorganized the Department of Economic Development. We reorganized the Department of Natural Resources. We're working on a complete overhaul. And if y'all got one of them, applause buttons, yeah. The Department of Transportation and Development. But you know what? It's hard to do all of those things when we're fighting over revenue shortfalls on a budget that is based upon a kind of a house of cards. This stabilizes. That's why all of those, the good government, PAR says, this is a great plan.
You mentioned early on in the interview, Governor, you said, our state spending has doubled over the past 10 years or whatever. I know it was $29 billion under Jindal. It's now approaching $50 billion. I don't know. A lot of people, we're talking about replacing the revenue. Are we going to cut this budget? Are we going to get this? Because we've lost people. We're not serving as many people, but yet our budget is out of control, it seems to be.
Well, let me tell you, it's a great question. When I got no credit, no one. Maybe y'all did. Y'all can play maybe some of the comments y'all made on this. But when we came out at the beginning of this year, we asked for a $3.3 billion reduction in state government. But we got a 2. We got a $2 billion. No headlines. Nobody clapped. Nobody said thank you. Nobody said good job. I mean, $2 billion is a lot of money. And so there has been a reduction. And we are going to be able to do those things even further. But what I have watched here is that, and this is where we get ourselves in a trap. Okay? This is where the Democrats always beat us. They make us feed on one another. We try to do too much too fast. And don't forget that reductions in state government okay, across the board become very difficult because of our Constitution. We had about, how many times did I get on the show during the session, which is why we were pushing for a constitutional overhaul. But we didn't get it. But guess what? This opportunity gets us 30% there. 30%.
Mm-hmm.
So, go ahead.
I was going to say, are we looking at ways, a lot of people are worried about services being cut, but are we looking at ways to address maybe excessive spending in areas?
Absolutely. Listen, you can go back, and if y'all can't find them, I'll send them to you. We put out at least one, I know 1, 2, maybe more executive orders to our agencies to do exactly that. To do exactly that. In fact, right now, our Secretary of DEQ has been working her fingers to the bone, trying to streamline our permitting process, trying to build the Citizens of the State a virtual dashboard, all things that are going to streamline and create efficiencies and cost savings. Dan Casey over at OMV is doing the same. But you know what the problem is? They're running into a bureaucratic buzzsaw because the bureaucrats don't like us doing that. But those are things that we are super concentrated on. But if we try to eat too much too fast, the bureaucrats win. But we're doing those things. And then the people of the state will continue to see those kinds of improvements. But it gets real hard to concentrate on those things that are important if we're constantly having fits and starts and fights, and then having to put ourselves in a corner where the only places we can cut when we have a budget shortfall is higher education, and healthcare.
Yeah.
Right.
Because again, those are things that we talk about. We forget about that. We say, well, man, in business we can just kind of look across the board, but you got to remember there are these obstacles inside the Constitution that we spoke about earlier in this year. And so because we came up a little short, we said, okay, we can let's try a different approach, which is kind of really interesting. We normally don't do that. We normally just beat our heads up against the wall and really not get more frustrated. But we step back. This is a great plan.
Governor, can you hold on with us? We got to take a quick break, and then we'll be right back. Okay. Governor Jeff Landry on the Jack Spring Electric Newsmaker Hotline, Mike and McCarty, 101.7 FM, 710 KEEL.
Back with McCarty on 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL.
On the Jack Spring Electric Newsmaker Hotline, Governor Jeff Landry joining Mike and McCarty. Governor, with eliminating the inventory tax and sales tax exemptions, et cetera, we're looking at $500 million. Where are we making this up?
Where are we making what up?
The lost revenue from the tax cuts.
Oh, well, look, here's what we have always been taught. That when the Laffer curve tells us that when you lower the rates and expand the base and you grow the economy, you raise more revenue. And we believe that this plan right here gets us exactly there. And the most important part is, now some people say, well, didn't we do this during the General days? Here's the difference. By relying more on sales taxes and reducing our income tax, we create a more recession-resistant revenue stream. Okay? Mm-hmm. And because income tax and corporate income tax are extremely volatile, consumption taxes are much more stable. So we go from taxing your labor to putting a tax system based upon your choices. And so we believe that this plan right here stabilizes that. Again, look, take a couple of great things about this plan. Very important. It doubles the standard deduction for seniors. It allows for a permanent teacher pay raise by paying down debt that will only give us existing savings. Okay? I think that when you go down the list of all the things that this does, it's really hard for any citizen to say, man, you know what? This is what we've been needing. Because if you look at North Carolina did this like 20 years ago. And when North Carolina started, their family median income was about $2,000 more than those in Louisiana. Today it's $11,000 more. I mean, just think if the average family in Louisiana had $100,000 more over the last 10 years, what we could have done with that. Mm. And you want to talk about, and let me tell you something else. You want to talk about further reducing and constraining budgets? We know that the biggest pressure on our budget comes from Medicaid. Right? Comes from the social programs because we got a lot of poor people in this state. But when you move people from dependence to independence, you move people off of those programs. How do you move people off those programs? You can only move them off those programs if there's work.
Right. Let me shift gears real quick on our last couple of minutes. The federal government implemented, and I know your staff probably told you I was going to ask you about this, and this may be a Liz Murrill question. The Fair Labor Standards Act changes for the salaries. The new requirements went into effect, which would bump salaries up by like $9,000. Some private companies say they're going to lose jobs if this is implemented. Texas is fighting this federal mandate. Should Louisiana be fighting it too?
Oh, absolutely. Because any time that the federal government arbitrarily tells businesses how much they have to pay something, it's a train wreck. It's a complete train wreck.
Now, we're not a party to the lawsuit yet. Will you be encouraging Liz Murrill to get involved?
Oh, I certainly will. I'm surprised. I mean, I know she's got a lot on her plate, and in fact, if I'm not mistaken, I talked to her yesterday, the day before. I think she's visiting with a bunch of AGs right now, and it's a Republican AG meeting. I'm sure that's going to be on the topic, but I certainly will mention it to her.
Because I know for our company, it may cost jobs for a lot of corporations. I think the Texas injunction they got only applies to the state of Texas as an employer and may not apply to all employers. I'm not sure. I'm still doing research on it, but it's something that troubles you, I would bet.
I will, and I'm glad you pointed that out to me. And I'm going to drop her a text. But I tell you what, that's a great example, right? That government has a tendency, when they do it the wrong way, to kill jobs rather than create jobs. This is an opportunity. Our tax reform takes the government out of the way, puts more money in your pocket, attracts businesses into the state, and at the end of the day, lift people out of poverty.
Governor, I do have a quick question. I want to change gears one more time. You are insistent on getting Mike the Tiger back in LSU Stadium when a lot of people say it's not a good environment for a wild animal.
Well, wait, a lot of people or some people?
Okay, some people, but some of them are veterinarians.
I don't know, the people I talk to would love it. I mean, as a child, that was a great thing for us. I mean, do you think it's not a good idea? I mean, why would it be? I mean, listen, they got tigers out there love. We got horses. We got animals that love crowds. Some don't. We got people that like crowds and people that don't like crowds. Like my brother, he don't like crowds, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Why can't we have a tradition? Why can't we honor? How about this? How about honoring the Mikes from 1 to 6 that went out there and did entertain our fans? That did. I mean, those are things that attract. I didn't go to LSU, but I love going to the football game as a child.
No, I do see if a tiger is brought up in captivity like that and is used to that, I don't see that being an issue. I do agree with you there. Yeah, sure.
I never said I want to make a tiger. You know what? And I don't remember if it was Mike the 6th or Mike the 5th. And of course, I just did an executive order on free speech and expression and right to assemble on college campuses. But one of the tigers, that would go in the cage. They'd open the cage up, and if he'd get in, they'd take him. If he didn't, they wouldn't. Hey, I'm all for that. You know what I mean? We give the tiger the right. I mean, I don't nobody's trying to drag the tiger to do something. But for Pete's sake, there's tigers around the country that might want to honor Mike 1 through 6 and say, I'd love to go see 110,000 people in Tiger Stadium, and I want to help LSU beat Ole Miss, Alabama, Georgia. Like, come on, man.
Yeah, we got to beat Alabama. Governor, thank you so much for your time this morning.
How many people, Ruby, you think there's more people like to see the Tiger in the stadium than not?
Let's see the Tiger.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, we got it. All right. Hey, listen, always great being with y'all.
Thank you, Gov.
Governor, thank you so much. 101.7 FM, 710 KEEL, Mike and McCarty.
Get back to the show with Mike and McCarty on 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL.
Shreveport Fire Department personnel in the East Coast in Florida helping with recovery efforts. Fire Captain Pamela Mackey joins us on the Jack Spring Electric Newsmaker Hotline coming up just after the break.
PBS.
More breaking news and trending talk with Mike and McCarty on 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL.
101.7 FM, 710 KEEL, Mike and McCarty on the Jack Spring Electric Newsmaker Hotline. Long distance from Florida, Cedar Key, Florida. Captain Pamela Mackey with the Shreveport Fire Department joining us. Pamela, good morning.
Good morning. How are y'all?
Well, we're doing well. You're working with what ambulance company now out of Minden?
Yes, Advanced EMS out of Minden.
And you are in Florida helping with recovery efforts.
We are. We're down here helping, and we were actually in Cedar Key for several days over the weekend, and they brought us back in to Perry, Florida, to stage last night.
You've been doing all kinds of things, including work at a school. Kind of describe what y'all found when you got there.
Well, down in Cedar Key, they're so resilient. They've been hit by 3 hurricanes in the last 18 months. And, you know, many of the residents had just got their houses back together. And, you know, we talked to them and met them and everything. And they're just completely devastated. No power, no water. I think yesterday the island had about 10 to 12% power restored. But the community in general, they're hoping to have the power restored next week. So the community they didn't want the kids bust off the island. So they asked for the community's help to get the school cleaned up so it would be safe for the kids. And I think that's probably what you're referring to, Aaron. Mm-hmm. We just went and helped get the school cleaned up.
Pamela, how did this get started? How did this become organized with SFD heading down to Florida?
Well, actually, I've been doing it since Hurricane Katrina, and during hurricane season, I always work with the ambulance service, and I've been working with Advanced EMS probably for about 15 years. And they have about 10 extra ambulances, and we take them when a hurricane hits.
Mm. So you knew you were going to go. You were just waiting for the storm to get through.
Yeah. No, actually, we came a couple of days prior.
Oh, did you?
Then, yes. And then once we get here, and, you know, because sometimes there's evacuations of nursing homes, of bedbound patients, and, you know, just different things like that where we have to go in and help move folks out of sometimes even hospitals that they're thinking that's going to lose power. And then we went back and staged in Marietta, Florida.
Now we also have crews, you know, in other areas. I know we have some in North Carolina as well, right?
Yes. Now Shreveport sent a whole entire task force to. I'm not sure what city they're in, but they're in the Carolinas.
Because the devastation there. I mean, when you would say, you know, Western North Carolina is devastated by a hurricane, none of us would believe that, but it's actually happened, huh?
It has. And I haven't been able to see a lot of coverage on that just because of, you know, where we're located and everything. Cell service has even been a challenge. Cedar Key just got a AT&T FirstNet tower brought in, I think, yesterday. But our cell service and internet and everything's been very limited.
I know in North Carolina, Donald Trump reached out to Elon Musk who provided Starlink service to that area. So emergency personnel, like, such as yourself, they're able to communicate, and residents are able to reach out for help.
I believe there was a Starlink located down there at the City Hall in Cedar Key, but that has been a huge help. At the FEMA camp in Perry, Florida, they have Starlink set up.
Parts of the area still without power, Pam?
Oh, yeah. Like I said, the island only has 10 to 12% power restored.
That's unbelievable.
In Cedar Key.
Do you see much effort from the federal government? Is FEMA, are they down there assisting?
I hate to say they're not. I'm sure they are, but it's just a small community, a small island. And I personally didn't see anyone with FEMA, but that's not to say they weren't there.
What's your plan, Pamela Mackey with the Shreveport Fire Department, Shreveport Fire Captain? What is your plan in terms of how long you're in for this? You're down there until there's no need, or what's the plan?
Till the state releases us. We actually had 4 units down here, and the state is trying to get, the assets and stuff released and sent back home. So the communities, the EMS infrastructure and everything, they want to get it back sound. And so they released 3 of our units last night, and they got back to Shreveport about 4 this morning. And I still have 1 unit here, and we don't know if the state's going to release them or not.
What will you be doing today? What's the plan for today?
Just to kind of find out what the plan is. We have a meeting this morning to see if the state's going to release the units. They're downsizing. We initially had about 100 units, and I think that they're down considerably, probably around 30 to 40 now. But all the federal assets, as far as the federal ambulances that were staged all around Florida, I think most of those have been demobilized. I think some of them even went to the Carolinas.
Shreveport Fire Department Captain Pamela Mackey. Pamela, you say you've been doing this since Katrina. You've got to be close to retiring. Why do you? No, I'm just saying.
Gosh, that was a gut punch.
Oh.
Okay, never mind. I'm going back to my.
She's only 29.
I know.
Yeah. No,
But God love you. You're still active, and why do you keep doing this?
Because I love it. It's just rewarding to go in and help a community that's just been devastated. And I will actually have 30 years in December with the Shreveport Fire Department.
Man, you started when you were 1?
Okay, see?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
That's retirement age.
I thought when I was 15.
Pam, I have to ask you this because I know this is part of it. Our state is hit by disasters all the time, and there is never a loss for people coming in to help us. So it's also kind of reciprocating. I mean, they help us and we help them. That's kind of what we do. Good people do, right?
Yeah, it really is. And even the cities and counties that weren't heavily damaged, those individuals are flocking to the areas. Mm-hmm. Like I met several ladies yesterday from Tallahassee in Gainesville that didn't have any damage, and they were down there signing up to volunteer just to help folks, empty out their houses and stuff like that, because a lot of the businesses were just washed into the Gulf. Oh. There was a lady that she's the island seamstress, and she made the clam bags for the commercial fishermen, and she had 4 big, huge commercial sewing machines that were just washed out.
Oh, gosh.
Oh. Yeah. And she just got order of supplies, like materials and thread of around 30,000.
Wow. Captain, for those who can't make the trip down, how can people that are how can they become involved at all, and what can they do to help?
I would suggest to go on the Cedar Key City Hall Facebook page, and I know there's many communities around the Carolinas and Florida that really need assistance, but just go on the Facebook pages and see there's some GoFundMe set up, You know, there's individuals that have just totally been wiped out. You know, do your research, you know, before anyone donates, just to make sure it's credible.
Sure. I know Samaritan's Purse is very active in North Carolina. That's their home.
Sure.
And they're working very hard, and they're very reputable, and you can feel secure donating to them. Of course, the American Red Cross.
Absolutely.
Right. And I'm going to tell you, Mercy Chefs has been feeding a lot of the first responders and citizens.
Wow. Okay. My friend Pam Mackey, Captain, Shreveport Fire Department, thank you for joining us, and God bless you for what you do.
Thank you, Aaron.
You bet.
Thank you, Pam. 101.7 FM, 710 KEEL, Mike and McCarty.
Back to the big stories of the day with Mike and McCarty on 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL.
The big stories we also do the small stories.
We do them all.
But this is a big story, the dock workers strike. Mm-hmm. And if you go to the KEEL Facebook page, there's a post on there that asks the question, what goods are you most worried about being able to get if this strike continues?
Yep.
Some interesting responses. And I think my favorite is one girl says, not worried, but I did buy extra coffee.
To which we replied, save us some.
Yes, yes.
Coffee's a real concern for Americans. You know, it's going to be a problem if we get
sure.
we can't.
Well, especially those of us that get up at 4 a.m.
Yeah, but I think it can come in on trucks too. I think it can come from Brazil on trucks. It just might raise the price of it.
Now, we have community coffee here.
Yes.
Are those beans from Colombia or whatnot? Or are those... Is that Louisiana coffee? I don't know.
I don't know that we even grow. They have to get the beans
coffee
from somewhere.
Okay, that's what I'm asking.
I don't know. That's a good question. Do we have any American-made coffee? That's a good question.
One of the comments is unrealistic expectations. There are schools in Dubai that are fully automated. Protesting automation in 2024 is unrealistic. Interesting. And I kind of said that yesterday. That's you're not going to win that battle.
Yeah. There's another comment I'm curious about. The Ronald Reagan approach from the 80s with the air traffic controllers. Go back to work or lose your job. But these aren't federal employees. Like the air traffic controllers were federal workers, right?
You may be right.
So I don't. These guys that work on the docks, they're not federal employees.
You can't say that, right?
They work for these private companies. I would bet. Maybe I'm wrong. Somebody help me if I'm right. I'm wrong, but I was be curious about that.
And there's some that talk about the salaries and the salaries that the workers are making. Melissa said medical supplies she's worried about to keep the hospitals stocked.
Talked to an IT guy who was a little bit worried about electronics and stuff like that. But I think some of that's going to come through the California ports. Those ports are still up and going. I don't think this dock worker thing is nationwide. So I think
they had a strike a few years ago on the West Coast, and that got settled.
Right, because there is some concern here locally about Mardi Gras beads, and all the throws for the Mardi Gras parades. But again, I think some of that stuff could come in through the West Coast. I think it could come from China. Most of it comes from China. It could come into the Los Angeles port and then be put on trucks. It may cost more, may change the pricing, but I think you could still get it. It's just a matter of it's going to be shipped a little differently. I don't know.
Dee Dee says, I'm more concerned about the idiots who panic buy.
Yeah.
Many of them are the same fools that will whine about corporate greed.
Yeah. We do make some paper products in the U.S., you know?
Yeah, 90% of the toilet paper that we consume in the United States is made in the United States. 90%.
Yeah.
And some is in Baton Rouge.
But don't we put it on boats in New Orleans and ship it out to sea and then ship it back to ourselves?
Yes.
Don't we do that?
Yes.
That's what I thought.
That would make sense.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's why we're buying it.
Happy Friday Eve. Mike and McCarty, 101.7 FM, 710 KEEL.